Welcome to Let's Talk Micro.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Micro. As always, I hope you had a great week. And you can always find Let's Talk Micro on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, GoodPods, Pandora. Whenever you listen to podcasts, you can find Let's Talk Micro. As for our social media, I am on Instagram as Let's Talk Micro, no apostrophe, on Twitter as Let's Talk Micro 1, on LinkedIn as Luis Plaza, on TikTok as Let's Talk Micro, and also under construction, there's a YouTube channel that is called Let's Talk Micro. So definitely I invite you to subscribe to that channel and go ahead and check it out. And also please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Leave any feedback if the app allows you to do so. Leave any feedback on social media. But definitely subscribe, download episodes, and if you have any suggestions, you can leave them on social media or you can email me at letstalkmicro@outlook.com. Any feedback, any suggestions, they are always welcome and appreciated. If you haven't checked out the previous episode, or in this case, the last two episodes, please go ahead and do so. It is a two-part series, and it's about discrepancies in genotypic and phenotypic testing, specifically with blood cultures and antimicrobial susceptibility testing. So Dr. Rachel Leisman joins the podcast and she goes over some scenarios. She talks about some steps in troubleshooting. So it's definitely very informative, very educational. And those of you in the lab that work with blood culture machines, that they do PCR testing for blood cultures, it's definitely at some point in time when you are on the blood bench, you have experienced issues like this. So definitely go ahead and check out the last two episodes if you haven't already, a two-part series with Dr. Rachel Leisman. So in today's episode, we go back to talking about laboratory. The last two were about microbiology. So now we talk about laboratory, and I have done episodes that feature the summer immersion program from one of the medical lab sciences program in the nation. I had two already, and this episode is going to be about another summer immersion program. But at the same time, we are going to be talking about a master's in medical laboratory sciences, which with the prereqs, you just need a bachelor's with, of course, the courses that apply to a medical laboratory sciences program. But you get a master's, which it can prepare you for leadership. It can give you some tools. It can give you a job as an MLS. So I wasn't aware of this program, and then I've seen it in social media, but I thought it was an MLS undergrad degree, but it is actually a master's. So in this episode, Dr. Kristen Pesavento from the Loyola University in Chicago, she joins the podcast to talk about the MS in MLS from Loyola University. And at the same time, she talks about the summer immersion program that is going to be taking place from May 17th through May 19th of this year. So just like other summer immersion programs, students that will get some exposure to all the different areas of the lab, hematology, microbiology. That way, have an idea about what medical laboratory scientists do. We're always trying to increase that awareness. So this is definitely a great effort from Loyola University in Chicago. And at the same time, they also, Dr. Pesavento talks about how they created this MS program, which is great. We have talked about how medical laboratory scientists, a lot of times, people have already another degree, and then they go back in for an associate, for another bachelor's. But however, with this, you can work as an MLS, but at the same time, you have a master's, which probably, puts you in a better position if you're looking to be a manager. So it's definitely very nice, very convenient. You don't have to go back for another undergrad degree. So definitely, if you have some time, go ahead and check it out. And on the show notes, I will put the details about the summer experience. Overall, a great episode. It's always great chatting with fellow MLSs. So let's go ahead and listen to it. So on today's episode, we are talking about lab. Instead of microbiology, we're going to talk about medical laboratory sciences. From time to time, we have talked about summer immersion programs from different, MLS programs around the country. And today we are going to talk about another immersion program, but at the same time, something a little bit different, which is an MS in medical laboratory sciences from Loyola University in Chicago. So with me today, I have Dr. Kristen Pesavento to talk about it. Dr. Pesavento, welcome to Let's Talk Micro.
Thank you so much. I've been a long time listener to this podcast, so this is really exciting for me.
Yeah, definitely, thank you for listening and, my pleasure having you here. It's always great to like I mentioned before, I love to do this, and even if I had no listeners, I will continue doing it because talking about micro and sharing my information, talking about lab. So it's always nice to listen, to meet someone that actually, listens to it. So thank you for that. So let's go ahead and, I said your name and the university, but let's go ahead and start with a quick introduction for the audience.
I'm Dr. Kristen Pesavento. I am a medical laboratory scientist, and I also have the molecular biology certification through ASCP. I've worked as a generalist at a small children's hospital before pursuing graduate education, actually in molecular microbiology. And from there, I went on to work at a large academic medical center focusing in the molecular realm, molecular micro, infectious disease, cancer, genetic testing, that type of thing. From there, I always had an interest in education. And so I came to Loyola University. And with Dr. Mirza, we started a master's degree in medical laboratory science that has been around for about 5 years now. And so we built it from the ground up, and here we are today.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that I'm always seeing, I've seen the program and I've seen on social media, and we have talked about this before off the air about, like just like I've seen, posts like on Twitter, and it didn't catch my eye that it was an MS program. So that's one thing that definitely when I saw it and I was preparing for this, it caught my eye. And like you mentioned, Dr. Mirza, unfortunately, he was gonna be here today. He couldn't be. But at some point in time, I'm sure, we'll have something else where he'll be able to come to the podcast and talk to you, the audience. So let's go ahead and talk about the MLS program. So for the audience, when we talked about MLS programs, we have different ones, typically 2+2, 3+1, but this is a master's program. So let's go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, I feel very lucky that I actually knew what medical laboratory science was when I was in my undergraduate collegiate experience. And I switched schools specifically to find one that had this degree. Most people aren't that lucky. The only reason I knew about it was because I actually had a family member who was already in this field. And so what we designed is a program for those people who've gone through their undergraduate education, maybe came away with a degree in biology or a degree with chemistry, graduated, and then in that now what situation. What I hear time and time again that people wait until they're done with school to search the jobs that they want. And then as they're looking through them, they see that all of the laboratory jobs they want to go into microbiology, of course. It's telling them that they have to be a medical laboratory scientist and have that certification behind their name. So this program is an entry-level master's degree for people looking to get into the field of medical laboratory science. We are a 2-year master's degree program, so it's 5 continuous semesters. The first year are didactics and student labs, and then the second year are the clinical rotations and kind of the career polishing. What makes our program a little bit different than a bachelor's in medical laboratory science is that our students also have a capstone project. So that could be new research under a PI, or it can be a literature review or a QC project that goes along with the lab that they did their clinical rotations, as well as we really focus on those leadership skills because we know that the laboratory world is changing. There's been a lot of people moving out of the sector, whether through retirement or career change, and that's leaving a void for people who are medical laboratory scientists, but also have those skills that are needed to go into more leadership or management positions. So we focus on that quite a bit in our program.
You mentioned that you said that, yeah, when you found, you knew about the program and you specifically pursue that. And it's definitely in my case it was the same, but like I was an MLT while I was in the military, so when I got out I knew that I wanted my degree in MLS, so I specifically searched for a school and I went there. But definitely that's not the case for a lot of people. A lot of my classmates, you did have your typical 20, 21-year-old going through college, second, third year, but at the same time, you have many 25, 26, even plus, 30 plus that they already had a degree and then they found out about the program later after the fact. So they were going back to school for the second degree. So I can see definitely how I even know people also that they have a degree like a bachelor's degree and then they go through like an MLT program and then some states they get certified as an MLS. So that's definitely very helpful for graduates that already have a degree and they want to get into the field.
We see that quite a lot. If you look at our demographics, we actually have students between those ages of, early 20s where we think, okay, you just got out of college, you're looking to do the next thing, all the way up to our oldest student thus far in the program has been about mid 50s, and they were looking for a career change. So we do see it quite a bit.
Um, so how long has this program been around?
We started the program in 2018, and our first class, because it is a 2-year degree, graduated in 2020. So since then, we've had 3 classes graduate and go on to success.
That's amazing. And so what about what are the prerequisites? What do you need to get into this program?
The prereqs are pretty much standard for any MLS program. So you have to have the 16 credit hours of biology with laboratory, 16 credit hours of chemistry, and a math course. And then we're looking for people who have a GPA over 3.0. And because we're a master's degree, they have to have a bachelor's degree before they start the program. But it can be a bachelor's degree in any field. So, like I said, we've had career pivots. Someone was in law previously before they came to our program. So, as long as they meet those science requirements, that's all we need.
Okay, so there you have it for the audience. So your typical MLS prereqs, but since obviously it's a master's degree, you do need to have a bachelor's. But it doesn't have to be specifically science as long as you meet those requirements.
Correct.
Okay. And you touched a little bit on this, but let's go ahead and talk more about it. So, how does this program prepare you for the workforce as far as opportunities versus a regular undergrad MLS degree?
Primarily, when people are looking at a master's degree, and ours, as I said, is an entry level MLS degree, um, they do have that option. Do they go back and get another bachelor's degree, or do they get an associate's degree, both of which would take at least 2 more years? And sometimes when you already have those degrees in place, you might not be eligible for undergraduate financial aid as well. So we're targeting those people that have already completed that education, want to put in the 2-year effort, and get a graduate degree along the way. What that does for them is that it allows them to have a quicker trajectory if they're looking to advance inside the laboratory or go into industry or research, where they're looking for people with those graduate degrees in addition to the MLS background.
Yes, and one thing that as and I had another guest in another episode talking about the DCLS program, and anyway, the subject came out about that sometimes on the management track, nowadays they're requiring there more people to have a master's degree, and I've seen this in my workspace too, where all like the managers they've been encouraged to go ahead and they'll pay for it, and they're starting to pursue their masters. So let's go ahead and then now talk about the immersion experience. So is this the first time this is going to be done, or has it been around?
This is the first year. Both Dr. Mirza and myself are large advocates for the field of medical laboratory science. It is kind of a passion project of mine. And so I wanted to have another way to introduce more people to this degree. And this field in general. I call it the choose your own adventure career in science, because once you have the medical laboratory science background, you get to pick and choose which area you like best and which one, if you want to specialize in just one, that would be. So when most people hear that, the light bulbs click on. And as we were just saying, this isn't something that everyone knows about. So they're not going and choosing those undergraduate experiences necessarily knowing I'm looking for a degree in medical laboratory science. We're broadcasting this to people, anyone who's over the age of 18, that's interested in science and maybe a hands-on career. So it's our first year. We're trying to get students in to just understand what it means to be a medical laboratory scientist.
Yes, and this, it's always it's definitely a great effort from this school and from many others that it's definitely working on bringing that awareness about finding out. So students are in, they see what medical laboratory sciences is about, and then they get to make the choice: do I want that as a degree versus finding out after the fact? So if they want to pursue, definitely we can always use. We need techs in the field. We need people, and this is definitely a great initiative. That way we can combat that unawareness about the program. And like you said, definitely, it is a great degree, and we can work on so many areas. So it's like, right, people don't like the smell in microbiology, so they go to another area. Maybe some don't like blood bank because it's challenging, so maybe they like chemistry or hematology, or sometimes they go to molecular, or the other way around. They like the challenge of blood banking and things like that. So definitely many areas where we can work around. So it's always good to rotate until you find the one that you are really passionate about. So as far as which student population qualifies for this program? Do they need to take any classes before they actually apply to the summer immersion program?
No. So we are opening this to anyone who has an interest in science, who's over the age of 18 and can physically be present at our Chicago location. So we're just outside of Chicago in the suburbs during May. So our 3-day session in May. Anyone who's interested is more than welcome to apply and come.
Okay, and what will they actually be doing? As far as in this experience, so they get accepted. So what are they doing?
So this is kind of a small boot camp and an introduction to the major areas of the clinical laboratory. We don't have all the time to go super into the weeds, but we're going to use case-based approaches and have them work up a patient sample. So they're going to find out basics about laboratory safety, our lab operations, how to use a centrifuge, how to use pipettes, and then they're going to take those skills, get some didactic information. So in chemistry, they're going to learn about what the different types of tests are, the samples that we get in chemistry. They'll learn the theory behind instruments like spectrophotometers. And then they're actually going to go into the lab and do tests using those instruments. So they're going to work their way through chemistry, immunology, urinalysis, microbiology, hematology, blood bank, and we're going to throw in a little bit of extra discussion there as well. So mycology, and talk about the latest emerging fungal infections that are of concern and why we should be concerned. So it's all going to tie back in using one case study, and our students will work through those different areas over the 3 days. So they're going to have the background information and kind of a lecture-based setting, and then they're going to go into the student lab and actually do wet work and get their hands involved and find what's wrong with their patient, which really is the heart of what we do as medical laboratory scientists. We help to figure out the answers.
Yes, we definitely do. We contribute so much to medicine, and we help the patients in such a great way, by doing the test. And I love it. I have rotated in all the areas, and definitely, of course, microbiology is my favorite. And I do love the mystery of finding out that organism and what's susceptible to, what's resistant to. So there are for a treat, definitely from my perspective. I mean, so those 3 days are gonna be good, and it's great. We outside of the field, like a lot of people don't know what goes on in the lab. I mean, we go to the hospital and they order tests and they give us our results, right? So you have high blood sugar, you have this and that, but what's done behind it, it's just not too many people know what's going on and what do we do. People typically they characterize as, you have doctors, nurses, and that's about it. So it's very general.
Exactly. And that's what we're hoping to just open those eyes a little bit further. And if nothing else, then people will realize that there are an entire workforce of other professionals in the hospital that are helping to take care of them. Even if they don't see us, we see them.
Definitely. Are you currently still taking applications for it?
Yes, we're currently still taking applications for about another month and a half before the experience.
Okay, and where can they go? Students that are interested, where can they go to apply for it?
They can book on our website. So MLS at Loyola. You can just Google it, luc.edu, medical laboratory science. And there's a link to the immersion experience on our webpage, and that'll take them to the form to fill out for their application, and it'll give them a little bit more information about what they can expect.
Definitely. And I'll go ahead for the benefit of the listeners. I'll put it on the show notes. That way, when they're seeing the episode, they can find it and it's just very convenient right there for them.
Thank you.
Well, anything else that you want to add?
No, just thank you for helping to increase awareness about what it is we do. Keep posting those awesome micro pictures because I enjoy them. And thank you so much.
Definitely my pleasure. I have shared so much information, but at the same time, I have learned so much and connecting with people and finding more and more about MLS. So it's definitely been a great journey. And like I said, at the beginning, it's always great when I meet someone that actually, like listens and likes what I'm posting. I definitely do it to bring awareness about microbiology and medical laboratory sciences. And at the same time, thank you and Dr. Mirza for taking this initiative, for starting the program. It's definitely, it's great. And so if you're out there and you already have a degree and maybe you're thinking about laboratory, consider this program. So, well, Dr. Pesavento, definitely it's been great having you here. So thank you so much for taking the time to come in to Let's Talk Micro.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And that, my dear audience, it's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to this summer immersion program from Loyola University in Chicago. As always, it is great and I enjoy connecting with fellow medical laboratory scientists and seeing what, their efforts for bringing awareness to this wonderful profession. I am seeing these summer immersion programs, more and more. So definitely those of you that are involved in them, shout out to you. It's definitely a great way to bring awareness about this profession. And definitely shout out to Drs. Pesavento and Mirza for creating this MS in MLS. Definitely, you come up, you can work as an MLS and at the same time, you get a master's. As always, continue bringing that passion to what you do. It's so important, such great work we do. So, stay motivated, stay safe, and of course, continue talking micro. Until the next time. Bye.